Love does not always arrive like a storm. Sometimes it comes quietly, like moonlight slipping through a half-open window, touching your heart before you even realize you were standing in the dark. Her name was Luna. She was not named after the moon by accident. Her mother used to say that Luna was born on a night when the sky looked softer than usual, when the moon hung low and full, as if watching the world with silent care. From childhood, Luna had learned to look up. Whenever life felt heavy, she lifted her eyes to the sky, searching for answers that people around her never seemed to have. Luna grew up in a small coastal town where dreams were often swallowed by routine. People lived carefully there. They worked, saved, worried, and repeated the same cycle day after day. Love existed, but it was practical, quiet, and sometimes unspoken. Luna, however, carried a different kind of heart. She believed that love should feel vast, so vast that it could reach the moon and return without losing its warmth. She moved to the city at 19. The city was loud, impatient, and endlessly awake. It didn't care about her dreams, but it gave her space to chase them. Luna enrolled in a prestigious university, studying literature and translation because she believed words were bridges between hearts. She rented a small room near campus, barely big enough for a bed, a desk, and a window that faced the night sky. Every night before sleeping, she looked at the moon. That was when Ethan entered her life. Ethan was the kind of person people noticed without knowing why. He wasn't loud or dramatic. He simply existed with a quiet confidence that made others feel steadier in his presence. He was a transfer student, half Korean and half Chinese, raised between cultures, languages, and expectations. To the world, he appeared calm. Inside, he carried the weight of responsibility far heavier than his age. Ethan believed in control. He believed emotions were dangerous if left unmanaged. His family had taught him that love was something you earned after success, not something you chased before it. So he focused on his studies, his future, and the promises he felt bound to fulfill. He didn't believe in looking at the moon. The first time Luna and Ethan met, it was completely ordinary. They reached for the same book in the university library. Their fingers brushed, they apologized at the same time, they smiled at the same time, and for a brief moment something shifted. Luna noticed his eyes first, dark, thoughtful, and distant, as if he was always standing half a step away from the present moment. Ethan noticed her stillness. In a place full of rushed footsteps and whispered stress, she felt unhurried, like she had nowhere else she needed to be. They exchanged names. That should have been the end. But fate rarely respects intentions. They began seeing each other everywhere, on the stairs, in shared lectures. Slowly, naturally, conversations formed. At first, they talked about classes and assignments, then about books, then about life. Luna talked about the moon. Ethan listened. She told him how, as a child, she used to imagine sending her worries up to the moon, trusting it to hold them safely. She laughed at herself while explaining it, embarrassed by how childish it sounded. Ethan didn't laugh. Instead, he asked, "Does it help?" Luna nodded. "It reminds me that the world is bigger than my fears." Something about that answer stayed with him. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into something gentler, warmer, harder to name. Ethan started walking Luna home at night, telling himself it was only because the city wasn't safe after dark. Luna started saving little moments just to tell Ethan about things she never thought were important before. She began to realize that when she spoke, he listened as if her words mattered. Ethan began to realize that when he was with her, his carefully built walls felt unnecessary. But love rarely grows without resistance. Ethan's family expectations tightened around him like invisible chains. His future had already been planned. Graduate studies abroad, joining the family business, carrying a legacy he never asked for but felt unable to refuse. There was no place in that plan for uncertainty. No place for a girl who believed in moonlight and emotional honesty. Luna, meanwhile, sensed the distance in him even as they grew closer. She could feel when his thoughts drifted away, when his smiles became cautious. She never pushed, she never demanded. She believed love should be offered, not forced. One night, after a long day of exams and quiet exhaustion, they sat on the steps outside the library. The city lights blurred into a soft glow around them. The moon was full. Luna looked up, her eyes shining. "Do you ever wonder," she asked softly, "how many people are looking at the same moon right now?" Ethan followed her gaze. For the first time in years, he truly looked. "I think," Luna continued, "that makes us less alone." Ethan didn't respond immediately. Something in his chest felt unfamiliar, tight, warm, dangerous. That night, when he returned home, he couldn't sleep. He found himself standing by his window staring at the moon. And for the first time, he wondered what it would feel like to choose love before certainty. Their relationship never began with a confession. It began with presence, with shared silences that felt comfortable instead of awkward, with arguments that ended in understanding instead of distance, with moments of vulnerability that surprised them both. Ethan began opening up about his fears of failing his family, of losing control, of wanting something that might cost him everything else. Luna listened without judgment, without trying to fix him. She simply stayed. Luna shared her own fears of being forgotten, of loving too deeply, of believing in people who might eventually leave. Ethan listened with the same attention she had once noticed in the library. He stayed too. Love, when it arrived, felt inevitable. It happened on a quiet evening, under a sky washed clean by rain. They stood under a streetlight, words trembling between them. I don't know how to love halfway, Luna admitted. Ethan swallowed. I don't know how to love without consequences. They looked at each other and chose to try anyway. Being together felt like discovering a new language, one neither of them spoke fluently, but both were willing to learn. There were misunderstandings, moments of doubt, days when fear spoke louder than trust. Ethan struggled most with the future. Each call from his family pulled him in the opposite direction. Each reminder of his responsibilities made his heart heavier. Luna never asked him to choose, but she wondered if love without choice could survive. The breaking point came quietly. Ethan received an offer to study abroad, everything his family wanted, everything he was expected to accept. It meant leaving within months. It meant distance. It meant uncertainty. When he told Luna, his voice was calm. Her silence was not. She smiled, congratulated him, and told him she was proud. But that night, she cried under the moonlight. Ethan noticed the change. The way her laughter softened. The way she stopped talking about the future. The way she looked at him as if memorizing his presence. Fear made him hesitate. And hesitation hurt more than honesty ever could. The day Ethan left, Luna stood at the train station, hands folded tightly to hide their trembling. She didn't beg him to stay. She didn't accuse him of leaving. She simply said, "No matter where you go, look at the moon sometimes." Ethan nodded. The distance between them stretched like a silent question. Time passed. Life moved forward as it always does. Luna graduated, began working as a translator, building a life that felt stable but incomplete. Ethan succeeded abroad, fulfilling every expectation placed upon him. From the outside, he had everything. Inside, something was missing. Every night, without realizing when it became a habit, Ethan looked at the moon. He remembered her words. He remembered how love had once felt less like a risk and more like truth. Years later, fate intervened again. Ethan returned to the city for a business project. The city felt unchanged yet unfamiliar. On his first night back, unable to sleep, he walked aimlessly. He found himself outside the university library. And there she was. Luna looked older, stronger, still carrying the same quiet light in her eyes. When their gazes met, time seemed to pause. They didn't run toward each other. They smiled. Some emotions don't fade, they wait. They talked for hours, catching up on lost time. They spoke honestly about regrets, growth, and the choices they had made. "I loved you," Luna said calmly. "I still do, but I learned not to wait." Ethan nodded. "I loved you too. I just didn't know how brave I needed to be." That night they walked under the moon together. No promises were made, only truth. Love, they realized, was not about possession or timing. It was about connection, about choosing each other again, even after distance and fear. Ethan stayed longer than planned, then longer still. This time, when faced with a choice, he chose differently. Love didn't erase their fears, but it made them worth facing, under the same moon that had once witnessed their separation. "I love you," he said softly. Right up to the moon and back, Luna smiled through tears. And for the first time, the moon felt close enough to touch. END.